Berardi Immigration Law is a great resource for the latest in immigration news and trends. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel. It really helps out the channel. And click that notification bell so you never miss a video from Berardi Immigration Law.
Hi everyone, my name is Gabriella Agustinelli and I am an immigration attorney with Berardi Immigration Law. And the point of today's video is to go over everything you need to know for your upcoming L-1A blanket visa appointment. So first, what is the L1 visa category? Well, we call this the intracompany transferee category. And this is for individuals who have been employed for at least 1 year outside the United States with an operation who has an affiliated entity inside the United States, both of which are actively doing business. And for this year of employment, you have held either a managerial or specialized knowledge position, and your services are needed in the United States at this time in the capacity of a manager or a specialized knowledge worker. Now, you are going to be applying for an L-1A. So we're going to limit our discussion in this video to L-1A managers or executives. Now, what is the L1 blanket? This is what you are applying under. Now, the Blanket L program is a program designed to streamline the approval of employees of affiliates outside the United States whose services are needed in the U.S. at this time. And what the government does is your employer submitted a petition to the government prior to your interview where they prove to the government that their various international affiliates or subsidiaries or parent companies are in fact related to the entity inside the United States that's seeking your services at this time, and that each of those entities are engaged in the systematic provision of goods and services. They are doing business in accordance with the L1 regulations. So by predetermining that the companies are affiliated and that the companies are actively doing business, the government can focus on just one thing at the blanket visa interview: you and your position. Now, it's important to note that government officers really only have about 3 minutes to make a determination from the minute you step to the counter until the minute the visa is approved. So make your time count. We will be talking about talking points in just a little bit, but first I want to talk a little bit more about what an L1A is, and then we'll talk about logistics. An L1A is somebody who is either a manager or who is an executive with a company outside the United States. Now, a manager can be somebody who is either a people manager, they have direct reports over whom they have hiring and firing authority, or they are a function manager where individuals may not report to them directly, but they oversee something very important for the company. They operate at the highest level or a higher level with regard to that function managed. And that work that they do as a function manager touches the work of various other departments and individuals within your organization. So, when we are applying for an L1A, it's important that you attend your interview knowing which of those categories you fall into. Logistics. So, on the day of your interview, we recommend that you do not show up more than 15 minutes before the time slot that you've been booked for. And when you show up to the interview, you're going to bring all the documentation that your attorney has already told you to bring, including the packet prepared, your passport. But another thing that you're going to want to have handy is your DS-160 confirmation and your appointment confirmation notice, both of which were given to you during the visa application and booking process. You're going to have those documents with you at the door to show the officer at the door that you in fact do have an appointment scheduled and have a right to be at the embassy in that time. And only individuals who generally have appointments are going to be allowed into the embassy. It's also important to pay attention to what you can and cannot bring into the embassy. Most of these consular locations will not allow cell phones. They don't allow cigarettes or food or drink. So heed their warnings prior to attending your interview about what you can and cannot have. When you enter the building, you're going to first go through security, and then you will be directed to the non-immigrant visa unit, where you will sit until your name is called. Now, this is not a typical sit-down interview we think about. This is a stand up behind a plexiglass wall where there's one row after another of agents, and you're going to just be interfacing with one individual behind this wall. So while we have prepared this beautiful packet for you that has all of the information pertaining to how you in fact meet the regulatory understanding of a manager or an executive, the government is not likely going to look at most of the contents of that petition. They're there to question you. So what are the kinds of things that the government's going to ask? Well, the first thing they're going to want to know is, what do you do? What's your role? So it's important that when you discuss what you do and what your job duties are, we want to lead with words that give confidence that you in fact are a manager or an executive. I oversee X. I manage Y. I direct others to do Z. I lead, I liaise, you use all of these words to make it show that you're not the one doing the on the ground work. You're the one overseeing that it's happening correctly. Okay? You're operating at a higher level within your company so that everybody else is doing the individual mandates that you've come up with. Okay? So, they might ask you other questions like, how long will you be inside the United States? And you will absolutely answer truthfully. You can say, well, if it is the case that the company intends to make this a permanent transfer, you can say that. I plan to be here to be moving here during the entire 3-year approval period. You might also be in a position where they're only bringing you to the United States on an as-needed basis. And if that's the case, you could say, I'm only coming into the United States periodically, and at all times, my home country will remain my place of residence. That's fine too. They might ask you about payment, who's paying for your trip, or who will be paying your salary while you're here. Again, if this is going to be a permanent transfer and you will be moving to the United States, it's most likely going to be the case that you are going to be paid by the company in the United States. But if it's the case that you're entering here as needed periodically, you can absolutely say, if it's the truth, that you will be staying on foreign payroll and you will be having all your expenses paid by that entity in the United States. They might ask, where will you be going in the United States? Again, no wrong answers here. You're going to truthfully answer the address or the city and town or of where you are actually going to need to be spending your time primarily in the United States. If it's multiple work sites, that's fine too. If you're going to be overseeing teams in multiple places or overseeing a function in various locations, that's absolutely fine. But I would take special attention to say that whatever address or city, town you give, it should conform to what you've previously stipulated on your DS-160 application form and to what you've put on the form I-129S. There's a section of that form that indicates your primary work site in the United States. We'll be talking about that form in just a little bit. Some other questions they might ask is, how long have you been with the company? Now, that is an important one. L-1 regulations stipulate that you need to have at least 1 year of employment, as we discussed earlier, with the company in order to qualify for this visa with this company outside the United States. But as we see in various aspects of immigration, this is a very discretionary system. So, some officers around the world have taken the position that if an individual has only been employed with the company for 1 year or 18 months or maybe even 2 years, they may feel that you've not been with the company long enough to truly be a manager. Now, This is not something we see very often, but just be prepared to demonstrate that even though you've been with a company for a short period of time, you very much are operating at a higher level within the company, and you have a lot of discretion over the day-to-day decision making of either the function you manage or the team that you manage. And you do have widespread authority within that role. That is pretty much the most common questions that are going to be asked. So take some notes, be prepared. Remember, I lead, I manage, I oversee, I direct, I delegate. These are the kinds of words we're going to want to use when we're discussing our position. So let's say you've now been told that you've been approved. That 3-minute appointment went fast. They told you you've been approved. What do we do now? Well, in the packet that you are bringing to your appointment, you will have 3 copies of Form I-129S. This is the form that will be stamped, endorsed, to say you've been approved for a certain period of time in the L1 category. Now, there's 3 copies. The government will endorse them and should hand at least 1 copy back to you. You're going to hold on to this copy and you're going to keep it safe for now. The other document that you are going to want to hand over is a copy of the L1 blanket approval notice. This is the document that your company received certifying that USCIS has validated that the company does have various international affiliates, all of which are doing business. And anybody whose employer abroad is listed on that blanket approval notice can apply for an L1 blanket visa. So you're going to show them a copy of that document as well so they can validate that in fact you have the right to apply for this visa. So you've been approved, you've shown the documents, everything's been stamped. They're going to hold on to your passport for about 5 to 7 business days so that they can make the L1 visa an actual page in your passport. What's going to happen next is that once that visa is made, the visa will be couriered back to the location where you stipulated the pickup location or the drop-off location to be when you booked your appointment. This is either going to be a courier location, usually, or it's going to be a home address that you've stipulated. Once you've picked up your passport with a new visa, you want to make sure you have all your ducks in a row for your entry to the United States, which you now are free to do upon the issuance of that visa. You're going to need for your entry to the United States the following 3 documents: the passport with a new visa, the stamped I-129S form, and the company's blanket L approval notice. If you have these items, you are going to be admitted to the United States. Once you've entered the United States, it's important to note your admission period. Your admission period should generally be the period of time you are approved for on your Form I-129S. But if your passport expires prior to this, take special attention to note that you will only be admitted through that period. So be careful there. If you have any other questions about this process or how it pertains to you or any specific questions you have, please don't hesitate to reach out. We would be happy to assist you. Good luck at your appointment and safe travels to the United States. Take care.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to like our video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and hit that notification button so you never miss one of these important updates. Also, check out the Berardi blog that's on our website at berardiimmigrationlaw.com. The blog is updated 2 to 3 times a week, contains tons of up-to-date information on policies and trends. You won't want to miss it.